Well, good morning, everybody. I want to talk a little bit about these two gentlemen. Vic Cornelia is in the D.C. area, Baltimore area. He not only fabricates his own product, he installs, and he's a bit of a pioneer and a mentor, and he's done really well for the ironworkers throughout the years. And Lyle Hill comes from Chicago, formerly of MTH Industries, now with Keytech. Lyle the same way. Lyle has put a lot of buildings on our lakefront. The Bean, when you go to Chicago, you see the Bean, signature project. The thing with these gentlemen is that they are heavily involved in the ornamental curtain wall business. And when you have the reputation that these two gentlemen have, they negotiate contracts. They don't bid them for the most part because they know what's going on and they know what it takes to get the price. So we're going to talk about exactly you may wonder, what is a building envelope? And we're just going to expand on that in our short 20 minutes. We're going to start with Vic. Vic, do you want to talk about the building envelopes and what
I'd like to ask the question, how many out here know what a building envelope definition term means?
We got two ornamental guys in the back.
Okay. Well, it's a very small group.
Another ornamental guy.
And thanks for raising your hand. I tried to get some of the rebar guys to raise their hand when I asked the question, but I don't see them out there. But anyhow, a building envelope is everything on the exterior of a building, simply put. It starts out with the glass components, starts out with the framing that holds those glass components in place, and it also includes all the structural components that are associated with it, but it's the whole building skin, and that's pretty much what it is. And we've been asked to speak to the future of that industry and what's going on. The industry itself employs an awful lot of union iron workers. Our company, we're in our 39th year. We've never been signatory to anybody but the local union of iron workers, and we continue to do that. And going ahead, and I think in the industry, it's hard to get the metric or get the number of what the man hours has been, but we were talking about that earlier. Between us and our large competitors, there are names like Enclose, there are names like Benson Industries, there are names like Perma-Stelisa, names like Oldcastle up in Canada, or it used to be the previous Antamax. But you take all of those numbers, and Lyle, we talked about earlier what we came up, we're trying to guess as to what the man hours are to the international union through the locals. And, we figured it could be as much as, 700 or 800 million a year. Now that's a subjective number, but it's a big number regardless of what it is. And it needs to gets the attention of everyone and whatnot, but that's the product itself. So it's the building enclosure, and it continues to be a product of choice by architects. Glass is, without a doubt, the largest architectural component on the outside of a building. We all have it in our homes. We see it in the office buildings. We see it in institutions. We see it in universities and the like. And it's going to continue to be that case. It's still the product of choice. And it's an energy-driven product. It's an energy-producing product in some ways. It's an energy-diffusing product, in other words, retaining glare and heat from coming into a building. But for those people that aren't in the business, and there's a small portion of that are, really it's a major component in the future of the work, and considering the public work, the private work, the renovation work. Many a building has had the old outside skin stripped off and a new skin go on that building, and that's exactly the product we're talking about. So we call it the building envelope, but really it's glass and glazing, curtain wall, and ornamental metals. And what the future for the business is very, very, very bright. In fact, right now in the marketplace, we're seeing something we haven't seen before, but usually in the industry over the last 30 or 40 years, some sector, and I'll break it down between public sector, renovation, commercial, and residential being high-rise multifamily, which has been a surge of that in every major city across the United States, and that bubble doesn't seem to have an end to it just yet. But this is the first time we've seen where all four of these sectors are beginning to emerge at the same time. And that's never happened before. Now, the good news is that that's good news. The bad news is, and someone mentioned to me this morning, that could all come to a stop at the same time. And that's not a good thing.
Go ahead. There is some open shop competition in the ornamental business, but primarily our competition comes from other trades. Sometimes we work composite with other trades, but our skill usually goes forward. Well, I want to segue into a little bit of your background and what you see for the future on the building envelopes.
Yeah, a couple of quick comments. First of all, I came to understand that a lot of the people in the room don't do what I call curtain wall projects or architectural metal projects, building skin, facade, building envelope. And I want you to, if you have a good crew and you're a good, well-run company, I think you need to rethink that, because there's a tremendous opportunity out there. And like a lot of things in life, we don't know it, we don't understand it, so we're a little afraid of it. I was there. I was a window guy, storefront guy, and the word curtain wall scared me in my younger years. But as you understand the product and you realize it's not as frightening as it really might sound. A lot of the things you do every day are more complicated than the typical curtain wall system. They've become unitized, they've become mechanized, they're simple. And anytime you can get a job that runs 10, 12, 20 ironworkers for 18 months, 2 years or more, those are nice jobs. You get the routine down, you get the nuances of the job under control, and it almost, with good people, and the ironworkers have plenty of good people, starts to run itself. That's a good business. That's a model that I would love to pursue. Although we did do a lot of the oddball things, the bean being one of them.
Bean.
But it's a good business, and it's a growing business. It's a changing business. Everything Vic said is totally accurate. There's a tremendous amount of recladding, reskinning of existing buildings that were built in the 1950s and 60s and 70s that's going to be done in the next 20, 25 years. Some of it's already started. There's a lot of new trends coming out of Europe. The architectural community has been unleashed for a number of reasons in the United States based on things that have been done in Asia, have been done in the Middle East, and in Europe. And the Europeans are here, the manufacturers are here, the architects are here. You're going to see a change in the way high-rises are built. They're going to become much more creative, not just the simple boxes. Change is good. If you can adapt that change, grab that change, and learn how to deal with it, change is good for all of us. It's an opportunity in change. And I think, based on the manpower shortage that we see, Ray, particularly in the architectural ornamental side of things, there's a great opportunity there. Opportunity for the union, opportunity for the employers, great opportunities.
I'm going to speak at two issues in the front row here. We're always looking for new contractors because our older ironworkers are retiring. We have a gentleman from LA that just started up his own business, sitting in the front row. He's using all ironworkers in LA on a, 30, 40-story high-rise? Okay. And he's doing well, and we need new people to step up to the plate in this business. We also have Permasteel Lisa in the front row building the Apple headquarters in Cupertino, California. Glass canopy, glass clear story, glass wall, everything's glass. Our challenge is one of my challenges is to get ironworkers acclimated to work with the glass and accept that as a part of our work. I mean, we do a lot of work in rods, we do a lot of work in structural, but there is an untapped market out there in the ornamental business, and these are mentors, these are icons here, but we need the next generation to step up, and we need some younger people to take a chance and to go into business, and that's what we're going. Now, we're not only going for the signature project, we're going for anything that has glass and metal. And the stick wall has kind of come to an end, you would say?
Yes.
And
yeah,
you would say,
very much
Vic?
so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stick wall's coming to an end, and the unitized is coming together. But you have to have a total station. You have to have people that have to have the ability to run a total station. We're getting there. We're not there yet. There's a lot of people that are versed, iron workers, but there's no reason an iron worker can't run a total station. And those, mainly that those jobs build up man hours, and you'd be surprised. The ornamental curtain wall is the last person to leave a job, and there's a lot of detail to it, and you'd be surprised how the man hours add up. You want to talk about your company, some of the projects you got going on now?
Well, we're just in the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area particularly, so we're not nationwide by any means, but Washington, D.C. always seems to be busy. The dynamic that changes it, like in a lot of places perhaps, is that there's always work, but the problem is, what's the value of that work? And so in the recession period, you can be busy, but no one's making any money. There's no return on that investment, which that's what drives the bus. And so now it's a good time, and we're at a point where, and we get a lot of competition that comes in thinking that we're the greener pasture, and it's not very green in downtimes. There are no green pastures in downtimes. And it's when companies give up equity in order to keep people working. They take chances on low-cost estimates and budgets, which is a fool's thing to do, but we all, as owners and contractors, end up doing it, even though we don't like to do it. And so it's costly when you do that. But so in the local area in Washington, we're always busy. Right now, it's extremely busy. And so all you competitors, I don't have any competitors here. Oh, Primus Solis is here. All right, sorry about that.
Oh, you forgot about Enclose in the
so I'll
corner
stay
over there.
home. But
Come on.
no, there's enough work around for everybody, and I caution the industry, and I get the opportunity to speak to the industry occasionally. And on those occasions, I caution them to don't use the bad habits we had in the past. We've lost an awful lot of competitors. The graveyard names are just all over the place. And every year, and even in this good time, we find that that's still happening. And companies are still having to recapitalize themselves and whatnot. We've become the highest risk industry from a surety bonding standpoint. That's not good. That's not good. It's because competitiveness, be it international, national, doesn't make any difference. It's driven the value of the work down to the point where a lot of companies have gone out of business. And so we got to make sure that that doesn't happen. As an industry, we owe it to ourselves and everybody else and all the workers who are involved in the process. We need to raise that level, raise that bar. And we've all talked about safety. That's what this event's all about, and there's no question about it. But the safety is the big item. And I was mentioning this morning, all the things we do for safety, we look for the results and the outcomes, but there's a cost associated with that safety factor. And we like to be able to recognize that cost in an estimate and on a bid and a proposal. We'd like anybody out here who are owners and whatnot, or contractors, general contractors, ask that question. What is your line item value for safety? Show me that you have the program. Don't just give me the literature, don't give me the results, but show me you're paying for it. Show me I'm paying for it. It's in the estimate. And we have to strive to try and get that done. That's just a particular feeling I have about it. But
We have some younger people that are starting, and they've taken some ownership classes through the Impact, which has been very, very helpful on how to manage your budget and how to collect your money, quite frankly, because as any contractor would tell you, collecting your money is a full-time job. Lyle, you want to talk about just relationships with general contractors as you see it for the future?
I don't.
It's a painful subject.
What I do want to talk to you about, though, in the few minutes we have, I want you to be excited for your industry, because you should be. I'm excited for the industry, and I'm retired. These are wonderful times. Anytime you have this much work coming in such a small amount of time after this terrible recession we've gone through, you should be excited. You should be excited for every day that you get up and face the day, whatever side of the business you're in. And then you have to say to yourself, how do I take advantage? How do I make the best of the opportunities that are coming my way at this time? And for me, at one time, I had to look at life and I have to say, I like complicated things, because I think complicated things, or the illusion of complication, scares a lot of people off. I'm telling you, if you're not in the curtain wall business, if you're not in that facade business, really take a hard look at it. There's so much for you. And the union, which I talked to Ray earlier, I'm so impressed with where the Ironworkers Union has come over the last 20 years. The union is your partner in this. They know how to get you trained. They know who to take you to. There are manufacturers that are dying to train you in curtain wall and facade work. And geez, you got to take advantage of that. Get excited about your industry. Get excited about the opportunities, and go for it. I think it's the most incredible time I've seen in 15 or 20 years, Ray. I do a lot of consulting for general contractors, for some developers, for a couple of engineering firms. I do some expert witness stuff. It's an incredible time, and it's going to be here for at least a couple of years, at least. Grab it. Go for it. Now, what was your question?
How do you feel about general contractors?
There's, like everything else, there's good ones and bad ones. If you can find 5 or 6 really good honest, decent general contractors. Put a warm blanket around them and bring them into your home. There's a lot of guys, we got to the point in our business, and I was there 40 years. The business is 128 years old. I got to the point where I liked them as people. I couldn't quote them, couldn't deal with them.
Yep.
There are good and bad and everything else. But there's enough good ones out there that you can make a good living if you can identify them.
The problem that I see with the general contractors and they award the jobs is that the buildings are becoming more complex. They're not just square, they're curves. There's different areas that merge together, and then they don't understand the curtain wall business, and then they just put a young project manager out there, and he wants to know why you haven't hit the schedule, and he doesn't understand the beginnings of the ornamental. So maybe some of you share that frustration. We have 2 ornamental locals only, one in local 63 and then one in New York. 63 is in Chicago, I'm sorry, and then Jim Mahoney is from 580 from New York. So these local unions do almost all ornamental finished projects, and they'll do 3 million man hours in New York. 63 will do 2 million man hours, all on finished projects. And it takes a relationship to get that going, but there is a profit margin there if you're willing to take the chance. And that's what we're trying to, part of my job is to try to convey the opportunities for people in different areas where you can increase your market share, and this work is there for you. And again, most of our work, our competition is from union trades, not from the open shop. There is some open shop. Our primary competition is always from different trades.
I think, Ray, too, if you look at the situation as it exists today, and if it was a short-term thing, if you said, we got a little blip in the economy here, and we're gonna have a little increase for a while, there's a hesitancy to want to train and gear up for that. I understand that, but I think what we're seeing now is going to sustain itself for a while, and I think that plays into what we're talking about. And Vic was saying earlier, we were talking a little earlier. Vic, I think you've got one of the largest backlogs of work you've ever had. And,
Close to it.
And they're to a point where they're actually turning work down. And there are Chicago contractors that I'm very close with who are in the same boat. They cannot take any more work. They're sold out through 16 and at least through half of 17. There's a lot of work. That's an opportunity, and it's going to sustain itself for at least a few years. It's a great time.
Right. Some contractors do their own fabrication. Some contractors just utilize fabrication only. It's a different animal. The fabrication, it has to withstand a lot of tests and a lot of certifications. You want to talk about your shop a little bit and your fabrication?
Well, our fabrication is pretty much limited to what we call architectural metal panels and ornamental metal. We do a lot of canopy work. We do a lot of ornamental work with stainless steel, both column covers, canopies, major entrances, structural glazing. We do that all internally. The curtain wall systems we generally buy out from major manufacturers that are spotted around the country and now up in Canada. And on that note, we're getting so much, because of the dollar value, you heard the value earlier from Besso on the value of the dollar versus other currencies. We're getting so much interest from companies from Italy, Germany, that are coming into the United States, and they've already got major backlogs of work, which when I heard this, the amount of dollars that they've got, these companies in backlog, they're already here. They're leaning on companies like us, and we've been courted literally by 2 or 3 in particular that are looking to build a bonding relationship because they don't have a labor force. And so they have to rely on companies like ourselves, and even Permis de Lisa, we've been talking to them about doing local things for them that they don't want to do. They're good with the typical floors and the top of the building, but they don't want to fool with the entrances. They don't want to fool with the architectural metals that are in those areas. They do, they have it's in their contract. But if they can buy it out and buy it out from a local company and use the local labor, then that's a good marriage. And we've seen several of those coming our way. But aside from that, we've been next month is our 39th year. We've been nothing but signatory to the local ironworkers, and we'll stay that way for the next 40 years, and that's not going to change. We have a good succession plan in our company in place, and that's what I can go to sleep at night knowing that that's actually taking place.
I appreciate your loyalty. you know, there's a lot of buildings out there, and this is discussed with ironworkers, and ironworkers, you know, they're apple pie, they're Chevrolet. So when we do a Chinese curtain wall, and we ironworkers have erected Chinese curtain wall, I get a lot of grumbling across the U.S. You know, why do I got it? You know, we always want our local fabricators to fabricate here in the United States, but the Chinese fabrication was, quite frankly, hideous about 5-8 years ago. It was a terrible product. And it was like you could do it for 30 cents on the dollar, things could break, they'd have to reglaze, and then it becomes 70 cents on the dollar, but they couldn't compete with the fabricated products that are here in the U.S. Now, their product's getting a little better, and it's getting a little pricier, but they do use union erection to erect their products. I mean, Chicago, there was 70 people putting up a Chinese curtain wall, and you'll see it. It's not our flavor, but listen, it's just like when you build a Walmart, but you won't shop there, right? You'll build it, but then once it comes, I'm not going there because they're not unionized and they mistreat their workers, but they're putting the products up. Union in most areas. I won't say in all areas. So sometimes you have to overcome the hurdles and the grumbles, but we encourage people to use fabrication shops in the U.S. You want to talk about some of your signature projects you did in Chicago, Beyond the Beam?
I don't.
Boy, you're a man of few words there.
You're not going to get paid.
He's too modest. The Sears Tower, they call it the Willis Tower. He did an all-glass lookout. So when you go up to the top of the Sears Tower in Chicago, Lyle here in his company did an all-glass lookout, and it's pretty unique. And those are some of the neat things. Enclose on the John Hancock did a curtain wall tilt out, all glass. You hold on to the rails, and this curtain wall tilts out. Looks like you're falling outside of the building. There's a lot of signature products that are going on. Lyle is being very shy here, but Lyle has put a lot of buildings.
Well, I've always appreciated, especially the last couple of decades, Ray, honestly, and you and I, Ray was the BA while I was running the business for several years, and we were just talking backstage, and I asked Ray, did we ever raise our voice at each other? And Ray said, no, I don't think we ever did. We didn't always agree. The phone would ring, and it would say, Lyle, it's Ray, and we got some issues, and we worked them out.
Well, Lyle, I think you won more than I did, to be honest.
I don't think so. I don't think I ever won any. But it was, I really truly appreciated the support that the union gave us in that Chicago situation. And we worked in Colorado and in the Southeast also. And I think as an employer, I appreciate the support. I appreciate the training my people got. Just 30 seconds. When we finished the Bean, which consumed over 20,000 man-hours in Chicago at Millennium Park, we had a celebration. The Park District and the City of Chicago had us come in. I brought all the guys that had worked and let them each bring a guest. We had about 26 ironworkers on and off that job for about almost 4 years. And we had a celebration. And I made this statement, and I want to repeat it, Ray.
Go ahead.
I was asked to give a speech, and I was asked to make some statements about the quality of the ironworkers we had on that job. And I made this statement in front of a number of politicians and the Chicago Park District. I said I would take those 24 ironworkers, and if you gave me enough funds and enough time and some good drawings, I would build you a nuclear submarine. That's how good those guys were. That's the truth. I believe in training. I believe in treating those trained and loyal employees well. But where you guys have come and what you're doing, I think is just great. It's exciting. It's good. Take advantage of it. I did. Take advantage of it.
We're getting yelled at here. The ornamental department was established in 1992 by one of my mentors, Roy Williams. Came from 63, and Eric Dean, who's my brother, worked there for a while, and then myself. When the general president said that his brother made him work through lunch, and that was me. But what he didn't tell you is that I let him go home at 1:30 in the afternoon. So he forgot to tell you the other side of the coin. I want to thank Vic. I want to thank you for your time and continued presence in the business. And Lyle, I want to thank you
Thank you,
for
Ray.
your time. Lyle does
having me.
consulting on many projects now, so thanks a lot, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.